The Inkpulp Podcast. This is the Inkpulp Podcast. Comics, hip hop, life. So I'm at the gym today. I do my workout. It's October now in Atlanta, so it's cooling down. I wouldn't say it's chilly, but it's cooling down. It's not hot. It's in the high 70s during the day. At night, I think it's getting into the high 40s. So the pool outside is getting pretty chilly, which is good. I want that cold therapy. Finish up my workout. I decide I'm going to go get some cold therapy. And I head out there. I'm also going to get some hot therapy. I'm not going to go out there and there's an outdoor hot tub with the steam pouring off it in the cool weather in the morning. Like, that's legit. So I go put my shit by the hot tub and I just march my ass right over to the edge of the pool. And I know, the way I'm handling the situation is I know this is going to be cold when I get in there. My body's not going to enjoy it. It's not an ice bath. It's not an extreme situation, but it's going to be cold as fuck. Colder than any water any person would want to be in. For more than a second, they probably wouldn't even want that. So I know that, but I've made up my mind. I'm doing this, and I'm doing it for a reason. And I'll get to that. So I just jump in. That's how I do. And you jump in, you get hit with that shock where you're like, oh fuck, that's cold, and then you just work on your breathing. You work on your mind, and you work on your breath, and you calm your shit down. And I find, you get a real nice calm sitting in a hot tub for a while. But when you jump into cold water, you go into fight or flight mode. And your heart rate increases and your mind races and it's like, get the fuck out, get the fuck out, get the fuck out. But that, the reason I do it's for my mental strength too. But it's good for my muscles and my joints and my tendons and ligaments and all that jazz. But I jump in and I can pretty quickly calm everything down. And I've trained myself to be like, don't go by your reaction when you first get in. Bring the calm down and then ask yourself, can you handle it? And every time I do that, well, let's say 90% of the time I do that, I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And the other, 1 out of 10 times where you're like, I'm not good, that's a sign. Like, okay, this is too much. Maybe you need to listen to your body in that situation. I jump in and I just walk the lap lane at a really slow pace, like back and forth, twice. It usually takes about 10 minutes. So I spend about 10 minutes. And by the end of 10 minutes, I'm shivering. It's pretty cold. But then I get out and I go right into the hot tub. And that's just fucking awesome to shock your system like that. But I'm in there, I'm walking down, I start heading back. And when I forgot to say, when I went out and I put my stuff near the hot tub, there's a dude in there. And he kind of was watching me do it. And then as I'm at the other end of the pool, about to walk back towards it, I see him get up. And he's walking over, kind of shaking his head. And I can tell he wants to try this out. So I'm just watching him as I'm walking slowly. And he hasn't decided I'm doing this. He's got fear in his head. So he goes over to the ladder and starts to walk down the ladder. That shit ain't gonna work. When you approach something with that much apprehension, with that much fear, it's gonna beat you. He got down to right above his knees and he just shook his head no to himself, nope. And then he got up And he kind of, I saw I was watching, he was like, I can't do it, I just can't do it. I was like, you gotta just jump in. You can't like ease in. You don't ease into uncomfortable things. You just do it. You get in there, you full steam ahead. And he was marching back to the hot tub, and then he turned around and he marched back to the pool. I could tell him he was wrestling with it. That's what we do. Man, I've been there. And that's what we do. And all the work I've done has allowed me just to jump in. So it just got me thinking, like, because I don't ease in, because I don't test the waters. I mean, I know it's good to be cautious, but in this situation, there's no real danger. Your mind is telling you there's some danger. That's because it doesn't like to feel uncomfortable. But I got out of the pool eventually, real calm, and just went and sat in the hot tub for a little bit. Working on that mind. And I get a lot of health benefits from the body too, but working on that mind is where it's at. It's what it's about. So, he never made it in. He grabbed his towel and left. I did, though. Took that motherfucker's soul. That's for another time. I also want to talk about perspective. Not art perspective, but perspective when it comes to what's happening in life. You scroll through Facebook, you see everyone complaining, political shit on both sides. And it's like war. It's like this is their whole life. And even beyond that, just complaining about shit. Man, we are just at that point in human evolution where, in this country, where most of us are pretty fucking comfortable. Even if you're lower class, you have a lot of comforts that weren't so easily accessible before. But this isn't about classism. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we need some perspective. So people are spending all day on social media complaining about every little move that's happening politically on whatever side they're on. They're sitting on their couch. They're on a laptop. They're on their phone. Let's say it's mid-July. Hot as hell outside, but they're inside. Air conditions blasting down on them. They got a nice cool drink. They got a TV in front of them. I'm not describing anything lavish. I'm describing normal. Right? And you can get on the phone and you can think these problems, these things you're complaining about, it's the end of the world. But imagine the same scenario. Imagine the AC cuts off. After a little while, you start to notice you're getting a little warm. Call the AC company. Sure, but it's July. We're booked. We can come out next week. Well, and it's going to be a couple grand, probably, from what you're telling us. Or we can come out tomorrow for a couple more grand. So now money's involved in the equation. All of a sudden, that shit you were complaining about on Facebook doesn't matter. Because it's not real. It's not real important. All I'm trying to say is it's important to keep things in perspective. It's important to look at the good you have in life. The world's going to always have its problems. People are always going to be problematic as a species because life is chaos. But maybe if we all just slowed down a bit, looked at the good things we have going on, thought about what we're doing and what's really important, we could kind of wipe out some of like the the blanket of stress and anxiety and negativity that's hanging over us, especially in the United States. I know we got some fucked up shit here. I'm not saying we don't. And I do believe we have to fight for change. Absolutely. But we also have to get through this mental sickness we're all suffering from. Just put some shit in perspective. That's all I'm saying. I got some notes over here. One more thing. I've jotted down some notes at the gym. I had all this shit I want to talk about. Mental curiosity. I get into the shower at the gym and I turn on the water like midway to get it, like, see like how hot that'll be. It's warm, but it's not like soothing warm. I crank it up a little hotter, it gets colder. What? Crank it up hotter again, it gets colder still. Okay, now this is where my mind goes into a different direction. My mind goes into what's going on, problem solving mode. What's happening here? If I turn it towards hot, it's getting colder. A lot of people will just turn it off and walk away and go complain it's broken. And that is a problem. You're not using your mind. You're not solving the problem in front of you. So I put 2 and 2 together. I was like, let me try to make it colder to make it warmer. It's illogical, but the way it's acting is illogical. So I do that. Lo and behold, my shower gets warmer. And it just got me thinking. I think the world would be a much better place if people took the time to try to figure some shit out instead of being lazy and just accepting things as they are. Put your mind to work. Everything I'm talking about today, put your mind to work, strengthen your mind, give yourself some perspective. Life can get better for you, life can get better for all of us. Those are just some thoughts from me, an absolute nobody to you. But hey, I'm the one with the camera on me, so I could speak. Welcome to the Inkpulp Podcast. I've rambled enough, I believe. Today, I have my man Jim Mahfood hanging with me on the podcast. We're working on some artwork, and we are joined by DJ Mike Relm. And we have a lot to talk about with Mike. But you, the listener, I want you to know that killer beat that is a part of the Inkpulp Podcast, the one that's going to drop. Maybe it already dropped? Yeah, it already dropped. That beat was by DJ Mike Relm. And he did the beat for Inkpulp Instruction, which is live right now. The Indiegogo for my Inkpulp Instruction is live. I've got an episode coming soon where I'm going to be doing inking something and explaining, giving sort of a lesson so you can get a preview going for it. But this is it. I have launched what I believe to be a massive business built to teach young artists or older artists of any age how to be better at the craft of comic book art. So, hold on. Yeah, all right. So yeah, there's it's up. I'm gonna put the link right down in the comments below. I'm gonna get the link down in there. So please check that out. Please help spread the word. This is episode 1. I've already shot episode with Tommy Lee Edwards. I'm going next week to shoot Eric Canetti. I'm going to shoot Jim Mahfood. I'm going to shoot Jeff DeCal. And I've got a list of people I'm going to shoot. I'm doing more myself, but this first one is the launch. So it's the seed. We got to make this Indiegogo successful to seed everything else. That's the idea. Check it out. Spread the word. Link in the description, I believe. Link is also on my banner for YouTube. If you go to any of my social media pages, the link is there at Inkpulp. Inkpulp. Just like they would say in Midnight Marauders. And sometimes why. Peace. All right, welcome to the Inkpulp Podcast. I'm your host, Shawn Crystal. I've got with me today my Jim. Can I call you a co-host? I mean, you kind of are.
Yeah.
Jim Mahfood in the house.
I feel like I need like a tie or something if I'm the co-host. I need a blazer.
Yeah, you're like my Ed McMahon, and then I got DJ Mike Relm in the house too, so he's my music
What's up? Full show.
We're here to entertain. All right, so let's kick this off. Today I want to get to know Mike a little more. I mean, Mike, we've been working together since right before COVID hit.
Yeah, just about.
And I feel like there's a lot I don't know about you that I want to know, like your story. So just for the audience, you're a DJ.
I am.
And talk a little bit about what you do now, mainly.
I DJ, I edit, I direct, I produce music. And yeah, I mean, this year has been just a lot of everything because everyone's home and there's no live element, as we all know.
Right, and that was the bulk of what you did was live stuff, right?
I would say at least half the time, because I'm not like, when you think DJ, you think, okay, there's, every time I tell somebody what I do, when I want to just keep it simple, I just say, I'm a DJ, whatever. And so the inevitable question is, oh, what clubs do you do or whatever, where can I see it? It's like, I'm not like that kind of DJ. So I don't work as much as the average DJ, but it's just a different section of that art, if that makes sense.
Right, because you do like hip hop and music production.
Yeah. And I'm just not that guy to do a club.
Right.
I tried it, definitely tried it for a long time.
Did you really?
Yeah, I mean, like, because for a time that was the only option. I started DJing in like the early 90s.
All right, so then let's do that. Let's go back. So,
okay,
what got you interested in being a DJ?
Initially, well, I mean, I started in high school, so when you're in high school, you're kind of figuring out what you're interested in. A lot of people were into sports, into cars, or, some people like to draw. I like music. So kind of got into that. And it just kind of, no, I mean, I played, piano when I was younger and like trumpet in band, but nothing.
I played trumpet as well, Mike. I played trumpet in high school.
Nice.
Yeah.
Jim, I need photos.
Nothing really stuck. I didn't get to the point where I was like in the marching band or whatever. But where I went to school in Daly City, and there was just, for some reason, a lot of DJ groups. Like, when I was a freshman, all the seniors were like in these DJ groups, and they had the jackets. They all had their names on it, and they looked super cool.
That's awesome.
And I was like, wait, what is this? And because I didn't know what that meant, you know what I mean? It's right. It just looks so professional. And so, everyone's like, that's a DJ group. I'm like, wow, you got 20 DJs in a group, and you guys are just going around doing parties and stuff. How does that work? What are the logistics? Why are there 20 of you?
Yeah.
Right.
Come to find out, like, it would be like 2 guys could actually DJ, and the rest of them kind of carried in the gear and hung out and partied. But yeah. So for some reason, just in the Bay Area, specifically Daly City, there was a lot of DJs. That's kind of what we did. So kind of got into that, bought a set of used turntables.
So you thought it looked cool. Now, were you a big fan of hip hop at the time?
Yeah, I mean that's really what that was kind of the gateway, probably because you hear scratching on that and really,
right.
You
now,
know,
the DJing crews, were they like hip hop DJs or more like electronic music?
it was kind of both, because back then you weren't really labeling yourself as a hip hop DJ like how it is now. It's like, okay, well that's an EDM DJ, or that's a house DJ, or a hip hop DJ, or a turntablist, or whatever.
Okay.
For us, it was you DJ'd, because there was really kind of two genres that we focused on at parties. Like, you didn't really play rock because that really wasn't like what you mixed with, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Hip hop was what you mixed with, and then if you wanted to get crazy, you kind of mixed like some electro, something like Debbie Deb, or
okay,
freestyle Cover Girls or whatever, or Jaya. But mostly it was hip hop, and because that just sounds the best when you're scratching and DJing. Sure. And that was the stuff, like, those records had the different versions of the song, a cappella, radio version, instrumental, all that stuff. So you could really like dissect a track and mess with it and scratch different elements. So that's kind of what, I grew up listening to hip hop. I grew up listening to, Wu-Tang, Pharcyde, Hyro, Digital Underground.
Yes.
Yeah. Mix-a-Lot, whatever, the whole Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, like that was me. I didn't even really know what grunge bands there were until I was like in college, like 10 years after the movement happened.
Oh, okay.
I had no idea. I didn't know, other than Nirvana, of course.
Right.
But, when you get into like Soundgarden, where that was new, I was like, whoa, what is this new band? Like that, dude, that's been around.
So, all right, let's back up a second. So you got yourself some turntables.
Yep.
How did you get turntables? Did you just save up for it? Was it a gift?
Yeah, I had to work. I worked at Round Table Pizza for like 2 years.
Nice.
And yeah, just saving. I mean, because once you buy the turntables, you got to buy the records too.
Right.
So
right.
If you wanted to play a song, you can't just download it. You had to like actually physically have the record to play. If you really got desperate, you could burn a CD, but then you can't really like mess with it, because back then you couldn't really scratch with CD players. You could just play it. So we would do a gig. If it was like a high school dance and there was a hit song that you absolutely had to play, we just loaded on a CD player and just be like, here's your whatever, Blink 182 or whatever song that you.
Right.
I don't know.
So did you get into a DJ crew pretty quickly?
No, I got into it pretty late. Because for me, I think because I focused so much on scratching that it didn't really you can't DJ a prom and scratch. Like, you just got to play the hits. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They don't care what your technique is, or like how many clicks your transform scratch has, or how fast you can juggle, or how you can break down a beat. Like, that didn't matter. And so for me, it was just like, well, I guess I'll just practice at home and figure this out. Maybe I'll make a tape or something, or, there was really no avenue for any of that stuff. So it was just kind of like, it was like a little, almost like a fight club. Like, there was a few people from each kind of school that sort of did that. And so we just kind of like hung out and scratched together. It wasn't really
scratch.
You know what I mean?
Awesome. Did you at the time, did you know you wanted to just do this for the rest of your life?
No, man, I was like 15. I was just like, I'll probably do this until I got to go to college. Cause again, there was zero opportunity outside of club DJs, radio DJs, wedding DJs. Like that was literally it. There weren't really, I mean, there were like the underground raves and stuff, but could you even see yourself doing that as a career when you're 15? Probably not. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I had to figure something out. But then as time went on and as I grew into like the age where it kind of makes sense to be going out and traveling and doing shows, those opportunities kind of opened up. So I got really lucky in that way, I think.
How did you get lucky?
Because as I grew, you know, as I got older, like as I grew as a DJ, the opportunities started to present themselves.
Oh, okay.
If that makes sense. So if I was born a little earlier, I might have given up just because there was just nothing to do.
Right.
You know? But then when I got, you know, so when you're a scratch DJ, you battle. Like that's your kind of public outlet. You know what I mean? And that was what kind of drove me to it because I just love that aspect, the competition aspect. So it's like, okay, cool. I want to get to the point where I'm like battling people from, you know, around the country or around the world. Like, that's exciting to me. Like put my skills up against theirs because we're all kind of doing the same thing. All of us are kind of the misfits of the DJ world, you know, just scratching records and whatever, hanging out.
Right.
So that was a big part of why that was like the goal was to win a battle, basically. And so I won a battle in 99, and then the opportunity started to kind of open up where I was getting booked out of the city, out of the state. Like the first time I flew, actually the first time I did an out of the state gig was in Portland.
Nice.
I was so excited. I forgot where. I mean, it's so long ago. This was like it was like in 99.
And you were just being flown to places to like spin in the club at night?
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. And that was only because I won that battle, and you know I was getting some press. There were, you know, I was getting some magazines and newspapers and stuff. So that was exciting. And I was like, wow, I could probably do this. I don't even know how much I got paid, if I got paid at all. Like it was just like this little club. But it was the most exciting thing ever. Like, wow, somebody is flying me to do this. It just blew my mind. Yeah.
That's awesome. Did you mentioned Daly City, Mike?
Yeah.
Were you friends with DJ Shadow?
Well, yeah, I am friends with DJ Shadow, but he's not from, I mean, we're in the same, the Bay Area. Yeah.
Okay. I thought, because I thought that when I think of Daly City, I think of him like I thought that's where he came from. Am I wrong in that?
I think he's more from Davis.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, I actually met him in Daly City. So
yeah. Okay.
I did not know you were friendly with DJ Shadow. That's awesome too.
Yeah, it's a good dude. Actually, he gave me my first like on record shout out, like on like on the liner notes.
Nice.
Oh, really?
That was cool. Yeah.
Was that his first record introducing?
No, it was Private Press.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that record, man. All that stuff's great.
Yeah, I'm a big Shadow fan, man. Like his.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Like, there's always just something about his stuff that's just like, that's better than I would have done. Like him, I would say him and Mixmaster Mike kind of have that, like,
right.
Did that. Okay.
They've got something special, you know. They've carved out their own niche for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, were you ever involved? What year are we talking about now with you? Like when you went to Portland and shit was starting to take off for you?
That was like in 99.
So were you like rubbing elbows with like the acid jazz movement that was popping off at the time?
Not really. No, I didn't really cross paths with that. It was more, I guess now they call it open format, where it's like you're taking, it's like the mashup thing where you take the acapella of, a hip hop track, and then you're mixing a rock track underneath or something.
Right. Okay.
Just kind of transforming it that way. So it's like, you can do the parties, but you can also kind of like keep yourself busy as a DJ because you're always kind of doing something and layering something.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? So how did you, I assume like we're getting near the time where you got into hip hop production a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that come about?
It was just kind of the natural progression, I guess. That's what everyone seemed to be doing. So I was just like, all right, I'll buy a sampler, see how this goes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't at all like I'm gonna make the next thing. I'm gonna be like, like DJ Premier or something. Like it was just like, it got to the point where people were like, why aren't you doing this? I'm like, yeah, why am I not doing this?
So what do? You just start making beats and mixtapes and shit?
Mixtapes came first. Yeah, because when I would listen to other people's mixtapes, in my head, because this is before like YouTube or, anything. So in my head, I'm like, how did you're hearing these mixtapes, especially the guys from New York with their intros, like these crazy intros where they're bringing in, phrases and they're making, different verses out of like one or two words from each song. Beats are constantly changing underneath, they're scratching. I'm like, how do you do that with two turntables? That's crazy. Come to find out, it's a 4-track. So like you have, it's a cassette tape, but they break it down into 4 different tracks, so you can layer stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I got one of those. Made some mixtapes, and that opened it up for me like crazy, because before that I was just doing them live. Like, okay, I think I'm ready now. Press record and then just go for an hour. Hopefully it's not, because dude, but you have to practice it. Not to say that you don't practice on a 4-track, but you kind of audition the mixes, and then you can just do them, and they'll always be perfect.
Right.
More or less, because you can just keep rewinding it. And so after that, got myself an ASR 10, which is this big keyboard sampler. Started messing with production, but I didn't really feel like I got into that groove until I got an MPC 2000. Like that one really kind of spoke to me, because I didn't know how to play the piano. I still know how to play the piano, but it just, the 16 pads, kind of using the samples more as a percussion was kind of how that definitely worked for me better, I think, as a producer.
Just spoke like you just had an innate understanding of that.
Yeah, and it just felt like I could get my ideas out a little easier on that.
Were there like struggle, like was it hard like pursuing this, or was it pretty like just natural, things just kind of came naturally to you? Or
yeah, I mean, certain things, I would say the creative always sort of made sense to me. That kind of came easier. The logistics of kind of getting the gigs and maintaining work, and then now as an adult, having a career, that always sort of like was always the challenge.
Right.
Especially early on, because like, what do you do? Like, I don't, there's no like path. There's no, the closest thing was like, okay, win a battle. At least that's a good way to get your name out there.
Right.
But that doesn't guarantee anything. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you want something, so what? Like, it's what you do with it.
What made you like think that this is a way to make a living? I mean, it's like, it's one of the things that it was really hard for me to wrap my mind around the idea of making a living at this beyond just being hired to like work for Marvel or DC, but like to be an artist and like own your own business and survive off of that. Like it's a pretty in the way I grew up and in our culture, I think it's a pretty offbeat way. It's kind of like a pirate lifestyle. You know, I mean?
It totally is.
Yeah, and so
Definitely.
what'd you say, Jim?
I said definitely.
So I'm just curious, like, were you just so passionate about making music that you never thought about that, and then it kind of caught up with you later? Because that's what happened to me. Or were you like, if I'm going to do this, this is a weird way to live, I got to figure it out?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it, growing up as an Asian American, like, your parents definitely make sure to remind you every day that you're not making money.
Right. So how did that go?
Which is good. I hated it, but at the same time, it wouldn't have. I mean, if they were just like, "Yeah, son, like, do your thing. We got your back. Like, do you want to just be happy? Just be happy doing your thing, and don't worry about the money. We'll take care of you." I would have been that would have been just a bad. I don't know what kind of person I would have become, because I need that push. I need that resistance, so that, because I think for me, I was fueled, especially early on, I was fueled very much by just sort of being like not the popular guy at school, and having my parents sort of like, constantly checking me on like, well, what is this going to do? What are you going to do? This the rest of your life and scratch records? What does this mean? Well, how are you going to pay for your insurance? How are you going to pay for your medical bills or your car? Whatever? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that constant reminder, it was just like, I need that. So it's like in the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, what I'm doing right now, like, that's one of the gut checks, is like, can I see this succeeding past me going, oh yeah, cool, I could do this thing on the turntables in my room. How do I translate this to an audience? Because that's the only way it's going to get out. And that's
right.
Getting out is the only way you're going to make a living, or, maintain this thing, or else it's a hobby. Nothing wrong with it being a hobby, but I didn't want it to be a hobby.
Right. So were your parents supportive, or like this is something I've wrestled with too. Like, my parents had that same mentality, like, how are you going to make a living? But they were coming from such a place of fear that it put fear in me and made me doubt my own abilities at times.
Yeah.
So they were kind of like an obstacle, but they didn't mean to be.
Yeah. And that's out of my parents were exactly the same way, but I think it's out of love.
Sure.
Because my family, there's no entertainers in my family. So
right.
When they see their son doing this, and they know, I think they knew deep down in their hearts that, like, this is what I really wanted to do.
Right.
So, and you see your kid doing that, it's like, oh my God, he's going to be homeless. Like, yeah, you get I mean, I would imagine, I don't have kids, but like, I would imagine you get a little desperate, like, oh man, I gotta fix this before it goes further, because he's traveling, and man, all his friends are doing it too, and
right,
like, who knows where this is gonna go, So, I don't blame them, I
right.
Again, like, I think that I'm the kind of person who kind of needs that, so that I'm just not, I think just creatively, it helps when I have parameters,
right,
like, or at least what others would perceive as limitations.
Yeah, I think that's where creativity, like, really, it's a nurturing environment for creativity.
Mm-hmm.
To like, where there are limitations, I think that's where creativity thrives.
Yeah, definitely. I needed that. And so to answer your question, yeah, they're proud of me now.
Right.
It took a while, because the other thing is, like, all my cousins and all my mom's, friends' kids are like becoming doctors and they're buying houses and,
Right.
you know, just living exactly I mean, again, as an Asian American, that's kind of the dream, right? Is like your kids are just like graduating top of the class and having amazing careers in something. And that to them, that's tangible. But to me, I mean, it's so different. It's so, it could be scary to them. So
Yeah.
I don't.
Sure. Did it cause tension between you all at certain points?
Yeah, especially early on, because I was bringing all this gear and records, and they're like, "What the hell is this? Like, this is not this is not the hobby you promised us this would be." You know what I mean?
Right.
And then staying out late, you know, you got to go to parties. I have to go to the parties to like observe what other DJs are doing, you know, and learn and just have fun. And, you know, I would go, oh man, I remember my mom will probably watch this, but like, I remember there was a party I went to and I was DJing and somebody got shot.
Oh.
And the next day my mom sees it in the news and she's like, oh, weren't you there? I think I saw the flyer because I had flyers for it. Right. And then I was like, oh, no, that was a different one. That's a different, it's the same name of the venue, but we were in, you know, San Jose or something.
Right.
I was like a block from the actual shooting.
Oh my God.
So, yeah. But I get that, you know, I would come home at like 2 a.m. and my mom's like waiting for me and stuff. So looking back on it again, like I get it.
Right.
But you know, when you're a kid, it's just like I really want, and I'm not like a troublemaker kid or anything, but you know, I was really going there to, you know, I really wanted to absorb and observe the guys who were DJing, like I would just sit at the booth and just watch how they flipped through the records, how they organized their records in their crate, you know, because you have to, you know, there's a certain, you know, techniques that people would do, certain ways that they would like, you know, use the mixer or just everybody had a different way. I was just like learning. That was like my school.
Right. Yeah.
And also to meet girls, like, you know, that kind of stuff. But like for the most part, that was a school to me.
Right. Yeah. I think, I mean, that sounds similar to probably, I know with my experience, but I'm sure with Jim's too, where you become a student of it, and you're every opportunity you can, you're just digesting whatever you can get to further your craft.
Yeah. You're almost desperate for it. Like,
yeah. Jim, I was going to ask you, growing up in a Lebanese household, I don't think we've talked about this. Was there a lot of resistance on your end from your parents?
Not really, because I was so obsessed with comic books, man, and drawing since the time I was a little kid that when I started thinking about pursuing it in terms of a job or a career in high school, my folks, I don't think were very surprised by that. They saw that this was just such a huge part of my life, and I was so obsessive about it.
Yeah.
That, I think their view was, we don't know how to help you on this quest that you're on, but we can encourage, and they're basically like, we want you to pursue what makes you happy, but we don't have any of the answers of like how, and this was all pre-internet, obviously. So it's like, how do you break into comics? How do you show a portfolio? And so, you know, they were supportive, but at the same time, they had no answers. And I went off to college, art school, and left St. Louis. And it was one of those things of like, well, you know, good luck, son, and we'll be here for support. But again, we don't really know anything about this whole art school thing or how any of this works.
Right. Now, I don't know. Culturally, is that like for a Lebanese household, is that pretty progressive to be that minded?
Yeah, well, also, man, remember my mom isn't Lebanese, so
Oh, okay.
I kind of had the mixed white suburban Midwest culture from my mom, and then my dad being a Middle Eastern, pretty serious, hardworking guy. I think that he saw that I was very, very hardworking and committed to this idea and the discipline of pursuing art. And that part of it, I think he related to. It just was the rest of it.
Right.
That, you know, his son is turning into this weirdo art, like punk rock guy with like posters in his room of Bill Sienkiewicz art and like Run DMC and stuff. So
Right.
I'll tell you this real quick, Shawn. I think that this is hilarious. Like when my parents dropped me off in Kansas City to go to art school, right before they left, my dad was like, if I hear about you smoking dope, we're going to come up here and pull you out of school. And that was like the last thing he said to me, and they drove away. And I just watched them drive away, and my first thought was like, how is he going to know that I'm smoking dope? Like, who's going to tell him that this is happening? They're 3 hours away in St. Louis. I'm in Kansas City. This is 93. There's no internet. There's no family in Kansas City to rat me out. Like, how is he? But he made the threat. Like,
right. And then fast forward 2 hours, Jim's got a bong in his.
Oh, for sure.
No, he's like, oh yeah, I forgot. I got to go to my guy.
For sure. And you know, Mike, what's interesting too is I have two younger brothers. I became, you know, this weirdo artist guy, and then my youngest brother became a DJ, a musician. So
funny.
I was sending mixtapes to my brother from college when he was in like junior high, and he became obsessed with hip hop. And he started taking these mixtapes to the record stores in St. Louis and finding the records that all these songs were on. So for example, if it's like Eric B. and Rakim, Don't Sweat the Technique, he's going out and finding the record that's on it and just buying the whole record.
Nice.
And falling in love with this music. And then he eventually gets used turntables from some friends of his. He sets up his turntables and records in my parents' basement in the laundry room and just obsessively starts mixing and scratching after school every day for hours and hours and hours. And he became a professional DJ. Nice. His name's DJ Moff. He's always stayed in the Midwest, you know, but he wound up like going to finals, man, with one of the Red Bull
really
three style, whatever it's called.
Yeah, three style. Yeah.
But dude, he's an incredible mixer, scratcher, turntablist.
I'm gonna check out. So it's how do you spell it?
Mahf, just DJ Moff. So in St. Louis, he's the Motown on Monday guy in St. Louis.
Yeah.
So he does that. He does various. Well, here's the problem, Mike. He was making a living doing 4 or 5 weekly events in St. Louis. So he became kind of like the big fish in the small pond.
Yep.
As far as DJing goes. St. Louis with COVID this year has been shutting down and restarting all their nights that he has.
Damn.
So currently, I think he's doing 1 or 2 weeklies, but they end at 11 o'clock at night.
Whoa.
So his whole career, like I'm sure you know lots of people like this, his whole career has been dramatically affected by this year.
Everybody, yeah.
So he's producing music. He's doing his Twitch thing twice a week. He does Motown on Monday, Twitch on Monday nights.
Nice.
People can send him money, but his whole career, man, has been almost like sidelined.
It's scary.
What are your, like, how has all this affected you?
Well, like I said, like basically live live performances that's like half of what I mean, you know, in terms of time and money, it's about half. You know, the rest of it is all, you know, video film work.
Right.
So I got pretty lucky in that sense. Not to say that I'm not completely just devastated over not being able to like go do a show, because that's what I've been doing for the past 25 years.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, in terms of, so when you say, how does it affect me and how I spend my time, or how does it affect like how I make a living? Or
I guess both, because I was just curious. I mean, you just broke it down, but I was just curious, like, what is your ratio of live DJing to actually just being at home in the lab producing and making stuff that can generate a revenue? I mean, you answered that question already.
yeah,
I think the dilemma my brother is facing, being mostly a live performer, is does he need to start concentrating all of his effort now on learning how to make music, produce music, make beats? How does he adapt to the current situation? And the other problem is, you know, being in St. Louis, it's not necessarily a cultural hub, man. I mean, he had a couple of his nights a week. He was doing his weird, like, it's a funk night or it's Motown on Monday. And he was able to make money doing that. But he was mostly making money now doing straight up just club nights on Friday and Saturday, where he can mix and scratch and get kind of weird. But he's also having to cater to a drunk 21-year-old audience where he's DJing shit, dude, that he does not even give a shit about. Like Rihanna remixes or whatever that is.
Sure.
I went to one of these nights, man, a couple of years ago, and I just felt like such a weird, like, old man. Because my brother's incredible, but the music he's playing, I'm just sitting there watching him with a drink in my hand, and I'm like, I don't know any of the shit that he's doing. Like,
I'm the same way when I go to just if a friend. I mean, before this year, if a friend's in town and, like, you know, I'll go check out a night and it's a club night. I'm like, well, I don't know any of this. I couldn't last 10 minutes DJing here because I just don't know the music. I can't match that energy. Like, it's just not my thing. You know, the people who can do it, like, that is a skill on top of a skill to me, because it's like, first of all, you have the skills of, you know, you can mix and scratch and juggle and all that stuff, but then you're taking all these things that you don't give a shit about. Like, you don't care, you know, about, he doesn't care about 90% of the songs that these drunk kids want to hear, but they get off on it. So I think there's something kind of cool about that, where it's like, yeah, if I'm not digging this, like, I'm sure if I went out and did a show at a certain kind of in front of a certain crowd and I dropped a BTS song, like, they would go absolutely nuts. It means nothing to me, but hey, the room's having a good time. It's a cool beat. I know what to mix in and out of it. But yeah, I mean, if I were completely reliant on live shows up until this point, I would definitely be spending some time, you know, I'm spending some time now, like, learning more production techniques and, you know, looking into different, just, I mean, not even music, but, you know, cameras and stuff like that, just because that's where my brain's going now, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, for him, it's tough. I know a lot of guys that it's just, it's taken its toll in that. I mean, it's like, what do you do? You know, everyone's doing Twitch and stuff, which I think is smart, both financially and creatively, because it keeps you, you know, it's like, you guys know, like, use it or lose it. Like, if you don't draw for a week, how does that feel?
Oh, yeah. It
feels like, pick up the pen and it's like, wait, it's not doing what I what I think it should be doing. Same with DJing. Like, you know, it's like, you know, if I rest for too long, I jump back on, I'm like, wow, this feels like a foreign object. Like,
yeah, I'm going through it right now on camera because I just got back from vacation and I'm like, my hand hurts. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Yeah.
That's funny because it looks amazing to me.
Thank you. I think you just get to a point where like your skill set is strong enough that even when it doesn't feel like it's flowing naturally, it looks okay. It just like I don't know if that happens with you, like with music stuff. But Jim, do you feel that way? I mean, I can't imagine. Jim, you just draw like you breathe. You're constantly drawing.
Yeah, but no, I understand what you're saying, Shawn. Like there's times where it happens mostly when I'm sitting down to draw an actual comic book page.
Yes.
I'm breaking it down, laying it out, penciling it, and inking it. There's times after 23 years, I sit down and I say to myself, okay, how do you draw comics? Like, how do you do it? Oh, wait, okay, I think I know. Like, and it does become sort of a relearning process almost each time I sit down and doing what I'm doing right now, warming up, just doing ink freestyle drawings. I can do this all day, but planning something that has to have a coherent narrative and storytelling, and that requires the whole planning and frustration of figuring it all out.
Right. I'm glad you said that, because I feel the same way when I start a movie remix, and when I start just making a beat. It's always like, unless I have like an exact idea of what I'm trying to do, I'm just sitting there. I'm like, wait, where do I start again? Like everyone always asks, like, what's the first thing that you do? Is it the visual element, or is it the music element? I'm like, I don't fucking know.
Right.
Right.
Like,
so Mike, are you getting commissioned to do like soundtrack work for various media, like TV, movies, animation?
Yeah, I mean, that's not what I normally do, but I've gotten quite a few of those gigs over the past, especially over the past like 5 years. Yeah, it's been really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Mike did the intro to the Inkpulp podcast for me.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Great job, man. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jim.
Oh, I just had one more question. Doing that kind of work, I mean, is that something that creatively fulfills you? Do you feel good doing that, or would you rather just kind of be left alone to do your own thing, but you're doing the freelance more as a income kind of thing?
I mean, it's kind of both. Whenever it's not like entirely my thing, especially especially when I don't exactly precisely nail on the first try what the client wants, then it's like, oh man, like, glad I'm getting paid for this.
Right.
But, that's what the pay is for.
Right. That's
make you feel a little better about it. Cause you never, I mean, rarely, especially with like, corporate stuff, like you rarely nail it bullseye, because there's so many different people that have to sort of like sign off on something.
Yeah.
There's been a few though. I did this, I did one for EA. And that was like, it was just so fun, because it was for their, for the FIFA, the new FIFA game. And so I did a remix of Blue Monday by New Order.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And so what they did was, so I took that, added sound effects to be in kind of the remixy way that I do it, but still maintain like it's a song, like you can like fully play it and dance to it or whatever. But because normally what I'll do is I'll take the visuals with those sounds, like if they're sliding on the grass, or like they're heading the ball or kicking the ball or whatever, that'll be the impact. I'll use that as the kick. Or if they're doing a high five, that's the snare or whatever, or something like that. But we kind of did it in reverse on this one. So they took the sounds and the remix and the music that I made, and then basically, went into the game engine and created the visual elements to match it.
Oh, okay. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was like really cool. And that was one where pretty much, everything flowed super well. just creatively, which is kind of rare. But I think in general, when I do remixes as commissions, those generally don't have a round of notes because it's kind of my thing. Mm-hmm. Early on, when I would do it for like, a lot of these like, I don't want to shade anybody, but like a lot of these like internet companies, like early, YouTube channels, when the corporate people started coming in and doing YouTube channels, they would, I literally got one of the, they gave me a sheet of like guidelines for the remix. And it was like, okay, use this, use an aggressive low rumble sound for the bass line. And they gave an example. And so it was like 10 little pieces of guideline. And literally all of them were references to my remixes.
Oh, what?
I'm like, wait, why do you like... So they had this sheet of like this checklist of elements that I guess they were giving to their other producers. And when they finally hired me, I guess maybe they just forgot that I'm me. I don't know. I don't know why they sent it to me.
That's hilarious.
I know that one because I freaking made it. I know that one because I freaking made it.
Yeah.
So that's when it started to feel kind of weird. I was like, what is... Oh, you just think that you can just sort of like go down this checklist and that's your remix and that's your track,
right?
And that works for you. I don't,
Yeah, they're always looking for shortcuts, and they're always
it's someone who's like, can you make it not like repeat at all? I'm like, dude, that's kind of... Have you heard a song? Have you heard do you know when you're at a party, do you not want the chorus to repeat so you can sing along? You just want to just that's it?
That's nuts. Yeah, that's wow.
Yeah.
Mike, do you remember what it was that made your parents like kind of like relax and be like, yeah, right, he's doing it, he's good?
So this is the most... I mean, this is a cool thing, but I remember I was in a movie called Along Came Polly.
Oh yeah,
in that movie?
Yeah. So the story with that is my manager at the time also managed Money Mark. You from the Beastie Boys?
Uh-huh. Yes.
And
I know Mark.
Oh, you like? Oh, yeah.
Great
super
dude.
good. Yeah, one of my favorite musicians. Also, I got to tour with him. One of the most amazing people. Learned so much. He's so effortlessly brilliant.
Yes,
that's the only way I can describe it. Just effortless. Like he'll, we were walking around Tokyo. We went to like this music store and they had keyboard and he just like playing. I'm like, oh, I recognize that. All right. Yeah. He's just like killing it. Just like fucking around, just, testing out their keyboards. I'm like, can I record this?
That's amazing.
So he did some tracks for it. And this is when I still lived in the Bay Area. So I flew down to the studio to just sort of, lay down some scratches because they wanted to, it was for the salsa dancing scene. They wanted it to be salsa dancing with like some edge to it. So I was like scratching. And then the director comes in just to kind of check it out. He's like, okay, so we're shooting the scene, this week. Can you guys just all come and be in it? Because it would be cool just to have the full band. I'm like, hell yeah. So stayed up there for an extra week, got in the movie. And that's when my parents really, they're like, oh, Jennifer Aniston and Ben Stiller. I see. Okay.
Yes.
Right. Now you're legitimate, Mike.
And I was in it for like 1 second. I was in the band. I wasn't like, I didn't have a speaking role. I don't get royalties from this.
Right.
Doesn't, but to them, that was like the one where, I feel like they were like, oh, okay, this could be a thing. And to be honest, to me too, it felt like, okay, this could be a thing because, that's not, if I were to think back to what could be possible through scratching, that's not one thing that I would have,
right.
That's fantastic, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to have that thing that like everyone can relate to or respond to, where they know what it is. It's like, okay, our son's in a movie. This is huge. You know, when I got my art on a beer can, my family was like, we can go to a liquor store and buy your art. Okay, so you've made it. Like, we understand what that is.
Jim, was that a separate beer can from the North Carolina? Like, you're not talking about that one, are you?
Colt 45.
Oh, that's right. You did the Colt 45 thing.
Yeah, I did like their ad campaign in 2007. But when the beer cans came out, I mean, St. Louis was one of the cities you could buy them. So that was a huge deal to my folks, not understanding necessarily like underground comics or independent publishing. They know that I make a living. It's all good. But me saying, you can go to a liquor store and buy my beer six-pack with my art on the cans, they were like, this is huge. This is incredible.
Right.
So
it is a big deal, though.
When you have something like that you can share with, I guess I'd say, non-artistic people, that's when they know that you're doing something big.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
what was yours, Shawn?
For me, it was getting my first job at Marvel, and then my parents could walk into any Barnes and Noble and see my work. So, like, the more and more Deadpool work I did at Marvel in the first, like, 5 years of working for them, like, Deadpool was so popular, like, the trades were always in Barnes and Noble. So once they could walk into Barnes and Noble and see, like, Crystal on the bookshelf constantly, I think that's when they were like, oh shit. And then Batman was a big one too.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You say Batman, everybody in the world knows what that is.
Yeah.
And to be fair, when I started on Deadpool, he was not like, there was no movie. It was like he was starting to become a little bit of a cultural phenomenon, and then he blew up after I started working on him.
That's awesome.
So yeah, but yeah, Batman was great. But yeah, the more I worked for, then, you know, and this is also before the Marvel movies. I think maybe Iron Man had been the only one out. So as the Marvel Cinematic Universe exploded, and I was working for Marvel, and I was in the Barnes and Noble, and characters I had drawn were appearing on screen, like all that. It's movies, man. Let's just face it.
Yeah, pretty much. Movies and alcohol. The other one, because so I toured with Blue Man Group in like 2006, 2007.
Oh shit.
Yeah, that was insane. But and that was a show that I could take, like, my whole family went to that one. Including awesome. My grandma. And so up until that point, my grandma thought I was a singer. She gets they watch the show, and she's like, wait, I thought you were a singer.
Mike, how far removed, like was your grandmother born in the States, or did she immigrate here?
She immigrated. She came here in like the early, maybe the 30s.
Okay.
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
40s or something. Yeah. But yeah. So my parents were born here. My brother and I were born here. Yeah. So that there was that how do you explain turntablism to back then she was like 80 or whatever.
Sure.
Right.
So seeing it helped.
Right. So
seeing just the crowd, because we did huge arenas, so it's like, that's a pretty good flex in front of the.
Right. Yeah. That's like, we went to New York. My whole family's from New York. So we took a little family trip up there, and I was really good friends with the editor-in-chief at Marvel, and he knew my family. So he invited us all to the office. So,
oh, nice.
My parents going to the Marvel office, that they got a kick out of that.
Damn.
And then
that's awesome.
So that's Axel. So Axel, he was friendly with my family. I had a lunch with an editor I was working with that I had to leave to, so Axel ended up taking my parents out on Marvel's dime, which was my dad's favorite thing ever.
That's amazing.
You know where he took him, Jim? He took him to Empanada Mama's. I was so jealous.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's perfect.
I ended up going to a Korean taco place.
Ooh.
Well, it was a Korean place, but they specialize in Korean tacos. And then I was watching Fuck That's Delicious, and they this was early on when Alchemist wouldn't eat anything. And so they decided to let Alchemist pick a restaurant, and he took him to his favorite spot, and it was that Korean taco place in town.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Just a side story.
That's awesome. Hey, Mike, was that Blue Man Group? Was that a national tour? Wow.
Yeah. So we did every city except for Vegas, Boston, Chicago, New York, because they already had shows there.
Right.
But we did everywhere else, like all the, basketball.
What was that like for you, Mike? Like that experience?
Oh, it was incredible. It was before that, I was doing a lot of tours, but it wasn't like that. Like, pulled up in 7 tour buses and 5 semi trucks. Like,
right.
There's a whole production. Like, you're just a part of this city that goes from town to town. But yeah, I met on that tour a lot of the people that I still keep in touch. Like, they're like family to me. All the bus drivers and all the band and the man, because we did, that was like a 2-year run.
Oh shit!
So,
wow.
Yeah, we were just kind of just out. And before that, it was like I was touring. The tour right before that was it was with Del, the Funky Homo Sapien, and then before that was Mike Patton.
Oh no shit!
Yeah, he's another one. Similar to Mark in that way. It's just like, man, it's just Mike fills out. I was in his band for Peeping Tom.
Was that the one with Dan the Automator?
Yeah. So when I went on that tour, I would meet the fans, and they're just like, "Oh man, I love what you do," and I'm just such a big fan. And in my head, I'm like, wow, my shit's getting out more than I thought it was.
You were the Automator?
They thought I was Danny Automator. Yeah. So.
Dude, I had never heard that. I just shot an episode of my instructional stuff with Tommy Lee Edwards, another artist friend of mine. And when we were there, he turned me on to that I had never heard any of those albums.
Mm-hmm. It's really good. It was us. Roselle was the beatboxer on that tour.
Oh shit.
Yeah, Dub Trio was the band.
So talk to me about the Del tour. What year is this?
That was 2000. We went out twice, but the first one was 2000. Had to be like 2005, 2006, because it was right before Blue Man.
So that was after Deltron.
Yeah. So he did a lot of Deltron songs, the Gorillaz, obviously.
And how did you hook up with Del?
That was... so for a while, we had the same booking agent.
Okay.
So Del would do his tour, and so I was like a good budget option for an opener, So I was like, and I had done tours before that too, so they kind of knew I could kind of, I knew what to do.
Right. And Del's got a lot of respect for you. Like when I spoke to him the other week, he was going on and on about how awesome.
Oh man, damn, that's crazy.
Yeah, that was cool.
So yeah, Del's another one. We collaborated on a song. The tour was one of the. I've been pretty lucky just in terms of like the tours I've been able to go on. I haven't had any bad experiences. I haven't, you hear these horror stories of like, because you're out for like a year, sometimes 2 years with the same people, the worst is if you don't get along with somebody.
Right.
Or if you don't like the music that, that's being played every night. But I've just never had that. Like, it's been all good for me.
So what are some other tours you've been on?
My first nationwide tour was with Gift of Gab from Black Alicious.
Yeah.
His first, that was his first tour as a solo artist. And then I would go with like Latif, kind of that whole Quantum.
Yes.
Born. They took me around the world, literally.
Wow.
So I would be there. I started out just kind of as their opener, and then swap in and out as their DJ. Like sometimes I would just be the opener and then just stay on for the whole show.
Right.
And
dude, the first time your art takes you to another country, that's like the best feeling.
Oh, yeah. Dude.
Yeah.
And what about production stuff in hip hop, Mike?
Mm-hmm.
You've done a good bit of that, a little bit of that?
I'd say a good bit. I'm definitely not like, I'm not like Madlib.
Right.
Putting out just amazing record after amazing record.
Right.
But for me, it's like when I did the track with Dell, that was when I was doing probably the most just pure music production. And then shortly after that was when the remixes, the movie remixes kind of popped up. So I just went in on that because that was just something that like it kind of encompassed everything that I was, passionate about. And I saw it was an open lane. Like there's literally like maybe like 3 other people doing it in the world. So I was like, well, let's do this for a little while. A little while turned into 10 years. Because it just kept, I would do it for fun. I was just doing it for whatever, because, there were just some ideas that I was doing, that I couldn't do live. You know what I'm saying? So I was already doing the video mixing at live events, but, there were still some things that I wanted to do that didn't work live. It was a little more cinematic or whatever. And this is when YouTube started getting popular. So I would just remix sections of movies and use those samples just like I would, sampling any record,
That's awesome.
Yeah. And that started picking up because I did one for Iron Man 2, just because this is back when you could download the trailers from Apple Trailers. They just had, I don't know.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, you could just download the QuickTime. It was that's what it was. They were kind of showing off what QuickTime could do. So they were like, "Oh, you can download the HD version or the SD version or whatever." I'm like, "Oh, cool, I'll take that." And I just started like messing with it. And then I get a message from Jon Favreau, and he's like, "Hey, this is cool." I was like, what? Oh. You saw that?
Wait. Hold on. You got a message from Jon Favreau?
Yeah, well, because I just put out this Iron Man 2 remix on YouTube, just thinking like whatever. It was so stupid. Like I wore an Iron Man mask at the end. I was like, hey, what's up, guys? Like just being
right.
If I knew that many people were going to see it.
So where did he message you?
Just on Twitter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he's like, yeah. We ended up turning it into like a commercial, and so that was definitely a milestone for me in that, sort of in the creating things for online stuff,
right,
and sort of shifting the kind of shifting the gears from, because at the time I was only doing live shows, and to me, like it's like the exact opposite of what you guys do, because it just goes away. There's no, like, I always envied artists, painters, drawers, or photographers, because there's a tangible thing at the end of what you're doing, and it'll outlive you. You know what I mean? Like those those things that you guys are drawing right now, they're going to be around. You know what I mean? Like, to me, I was like, I just wish that what I do could create that. That was always sort of my.
Why don't you don't think your music will stick around?
I mean, I just meant in for live shows.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You know, because you're doing live shows every night. You know, if you're on a tour, you're doing the show 5 nights a week, sometimes 6, maybe 7. And it just felt like, man, do the show Friday, Saturday, there's no show. You do another one.
Yeah.
You know, I always felt like that was sort of the one sort of downside to me for doing just so many live events, because I mean, I made like CDs and DVDs and stuff, but you know, I always like the idea of like a tangible thing. Like, I wish this experience can be, you know, replicated and kind of live on without me.
Right.
But it's
I see what you're saying.
Sort of special.
So go ahead, Mike.
Oh, but yeah. So then that was a cool. And so, you know, after I did the Iron Man one, the other studios, other directors started, you know, kind of hitting me up for similar things, and that just kept going. I didn't know it would be that it would just keep rolling that long.
Right. And you, Mike, I guess we haven't talked about this. You have, like, what's your past with comics? Because you have some love for comics.
Yeah, I was the guy. You know what's funny, Jim, is like, I have a younger brother, but we're the opposite. Like, I'm the DJ and he's the artist.
Okay.
It's kind of funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
wow, I didn't know that.
yeah, he's a graph artist, and he's amazing to this day. Like, we still do it, which is kind of funny. Similar to you guys, we're like the opposite of like you and your brother.
Yeah, I love that. It's I mean, I still do like flyer work and album covers for my brother when he drops like new releases and stuff. So it is cool to have a collaborative connection that way. And whenever I would go to St. Louis in the past, we would usually organize, like, he would do a DJ event, and then me and my buddies would come down and paint live, you know, on stage, do the live art.
Oh, wow.
At the events, and make it just this full blown, you know, sensory overload kind of situation.
That's
Mike, Jim has a history of these like live art events he would host that are epic. And Jim, you did one for MF Doom, right?
Yeah, we did a Doom show, I mean, years ago, probably 10 years ago in Chicago.
I did a show with him in Chicago.
Really?
Was it at the, what's that place, the Congress? Is that what it's called?
Oh, it was, man.
Was it with Mos Def?
I don't think so.
It was for their tour when they did the, what would they call their tour? It was, I forgot what they called the tour, but it was them too.
Wow, that's a tour.
But
I didn't even
that's
know
a crazy tour. I don't think it was, just because I would definitely remember if it was Mos Def.
Yeah. Because he came out, Mos Def came out in the mask.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Oh, it was dope. It was super dope. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And what were you doing? You were DJing that, Mike?
I was the opener.
Oh, awesome.
Shit.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, but the Congress sounds right, man. I think that was the venue. We did this it was the same weekend as Chicago Comic-Con. So either June or July. My friends in Chicago hooked all this up, and I believe it was at the Congress, but I don't remember any openers. I mean, I think it was, I remember Doom being late. And his DJ like was just starting the show, and people in the audience were just chanting Doom.
Yeah.
And we're starting to paint, and we're like, where is this fool?
Damn.
And he eventually came out, but it was when he was getting the reputation of starting to become unreliable.
Yeah.
His live shows, and there was these rumors going around that it wasn't even him doing the show. It was some other like chubby black dude wearing the Doom outfit and the mask. So it became this kind of, I don't know, he got kind of a strange reputation during that time.
Yeah, I remember that. But that was like, man, for a quick minute, that was part of the value almost. Like I remember being at South by Southwest and people were like, oh shit, Doom's got a show. I think he's like 2 hours late, but fuck. So he just did the show and he just hopped in a limo and just drove off. Like nobody knows who it's like that was part of the mystique.
Right.
Like, yeah, man, why can't I do that?
Yeah.
Right. So
there's only one Doom, you know.
Yeah.
That's true. Mike, so your love of comics, we started talking about that.
So yeah, sorry, got sidetracked. So we were into comics, like my brother and I got into comics like late 80s, early 90s. We were just, I mean, in the boom, that first like big wave where everyone was buying like 9 copies of X-Men.
Right.
Yeah.
But we were definitely those guys. We would wait, at the comic shop for, I remember we got to the shop at like, must have been 6 a.m., something like that.
Oh my God.
For like X-Force, the bagged X-Force with the different cards.
Yeah.
So you had to get all 5. Yeah. I mean, they totally took us. Totally, every penny. So we were,
we were all those kids, man. We were all victims of that era, and it sucks, man. Because like I started collecting when I was way younger, and so I was collecting in the 80s, but I was still a total sucker for all the early 90s shit.
Oh, I was too.
The bags,
exciting, man.
And you would think that I would have enough sense to be like, it's a scam. But no, I bought all that shit.
Dude, that shit was exciting, man. It was like comics became legitimate with that. They weren't just spinner rack books.
Right. No, it was exciting. You're right. It was like a whole movement that was happening.
Right.
Yeah. Going to all the conventions and stuff. And I remember when Spawn #1 came out, I was like, oh shit, this is, all the Image,
Right.
When those all dropped, it was like, damn, this is the beginning of some crazy new thing. So we were into that, and we took art classes at like the Art Institute in San Francisco. For like, we took those summer classes and stuff. But again, like it really stuck with him. Like we're brothers, so it's like we're just sitting there drawing, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is not my thing. This is
right.
For sure. Like he has that, part of the brain. Like,
so did he pursue it as a career, Mike?
Yeah. I mean, now he still paints, and he does graphic design too. So he kind of incorporates that in terms of like, just like the making the living side of things. But he's done walls in San Francisco, commission walls and stuff like that. And that was for him. I think the family's like sort of understanding for what he did kind of culminated when he did a legal wall like in Chinatown. It was like this crazy like dragon, and so my grandma's all showing off to her friends and stuff. And
that's great.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
Dude, San Francisco Chinatown is my favorite Chinatown.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
That's the best one.
Yeah, it's so amazing.
Hey, Mike, real quick, were you going to the conventions you mentioned? Were those all Bay Area?
All the Bay Area ones.
Did you go to? Were you guys going to WonderCon?
Oh my God, yeah.
San Francisco.
I didn't go to WonderCon. I went to Comic-Con.
San Diego.
In San Diego, yeah.
Okay.
I did. Oh, no. I went to. There was one. I don't think it was WonderCon, but it was. It was in the Moscone Center. Was that WonderCon?
Yeah, that was WonderCon.
Okay, then I did go to WonderCon. Yeah.
What year was that?
That was so overwhelming. It must have been. We were really young. I remember because the entrance fee was like $20. And I was like, wow, you got to pay $20 just to get into to buy things. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
But then that's what you did. That was ridiculous. Like because the other conventions were like in the mall.
Right.
Ceremony Mall, where you just walk around and it's like, oh, okay, cool. You can buy baseball cards, and there was a couple comic things. but yeah, see, just going to WonderCon and seeing that just full force, everybody's out there. This is before the crazy how Comic-Con is now with everyone cosplaying.
Right.
Yep.
I miss that San Francisco WonderCon, man.
Me too, man. I would do that show every year, and that was like the mainstream Bay Area show. And
right, Ape was there too, right?
And I would do Ape every year, and that's Alternative Press Expo. And Mike, I don't know if you ever checked that one out, but that was all like indie comics, black and white stuff, alternative press.
Oh, okay.
And every year during that one, we would do a live art event at the Milk Bar on
on Hate.
On Hate, yeah.
Yep.
So for years, man, we did that, and then eventually, Shawn, is Ape? Does Ape still happen? I don't
know. I was just going to ask you the same question.
If you guys don't know.
Yeah, I forgot. I mean, damn, I miss going to San Francisco. I miss Ape. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a magical town, man. I was definitely bummed when WonderCon moved to Anaheim because, I'm already living in LA. I have already got enough conventions in the LA area. WonderCon was my excuse to go to San Francisco once a year.
Exactly.
So
it also had a different vibe up there. Like now it's just like an LA corporate show, but in San Francisco it was kind of like it still like had a bit of a like small con vibe to it, being a big con.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that show.
When were you guys going to that to the San Francisco one?
This would be in the early 2000s, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep. I think my last year there was, I think 2010 or 11, because I was there promoting the Marijuana Man book I did with Ziggy Marley.
I think I was there that year, Jim.
And Shawn, Ziggy showed up, and
I remember this.
Him and I signed at the Image Comics booth together. And it was nuts. I mean, we had a huge line, obviously, because it's Ziggy Marley. But at the end of the signing, everyone, gives Ziggy weed at events. So at the end of the signing, he had like just this pile of like edibles and weed. And I was looking at it, and I'm kind of like, what's going to happen with all that? And he's like, I know, man, it wasn't what you expect. He was like, oh man, I'll have to get rid of all of it because like I can't risk taking any of it or because I'm not judging anyone, but he's like, if some crazy person laced something. And so me and my friends are just like, could we have it? And he's like, have at it, man. Like, you're more trusting than I. He's like, I can't do it. Like, I just can't take it. Like, there's too much going on with like weird shit. So
and I take it was all good, Jim.
Hey, dude, I didn't have a problem.
Yeah. But I think that was the last year I went too. I remember, I mean, we didn't, like, I knew who you were, and I think we'd say hi in passing. We didn't, like, kick it back then, but I remember you at the Image booth with Ziggy. I remember that happening.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was a good era, man. That was fun stuff.
Man.
Yeah, I'm craving some Chinese food from Chinatown now.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Dude, that's the best Chinese food I've ever had.
Yeah, that's the one thing I do miss having moved to LA. It's just like specifically Chinatown.
When did you make the move?
2010.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And it just got to the point where I wasn't doing anything in the Bay Area in terms of like work. Like I was, all my shows were not in the Bay, and I was pretty consistently going to LA anyways, so kind of made sense. I wish I moved earlier. I should have just done it.
Yeah. Mike, did you find yourself, I guess, getting like priced out of the Bay Area?
Not yet. Yeah. So I left before, and I thought it was bad, but like it's real bad now. So So it just didn't make sense to be living there when I wasn't really living there. And then also it just got to the point where it like there used to be a lot of artists in San Francisco. In the Bay Area, it was a great place to just be an artist and just have a community of people. But it stopped being that way, and it started getting, the priority was always like, at the time it was like apps. I guess the priority still is apps, but just that the social media technology companies were definitely taking over. Like a lot of the old like mom and pop stores ended up being like, whatever, these weird coffee shops with like super fast Wi-Fi or whatever they need. Right. I don't know, that kind of shit. So it was just like like all these pop-ups and all these like, what was it like? I mean, Zipcar. I never used Zipcar. I don't know, but that kind of shit. Like, just get in a car and show your phone to the sensor, and then you can drive and do whatever you want. Like that kind of stuff, which is innovative for sure, but that's not what I want to be surrounded by. Right. That's a priority. I don't need to be there. And then LA is like all artists. You know what I mean? Right. It's like if you're not doing something creative in LA, like you feel weird. So yeah, it's weird. Like that's the whole the cliche is like you go to LA and every server or whatever or taxi driver has a script. Something. Right. So to me, I love it. That's great. That's that's what I want to be surrounded by.
It's so funny, man. As soon as I moved to Portland, the next time I went to LA to visit, like I flew into Burbank, and my Lyft driver was giving me like his business card because we were talking, and I was like, yeah, I'm working in comics and animation. He's like, dude, I do voiceover. I just moved here from like Ohio. He had like headshots and gave me his card, and I was in LA in the city for like literally 10 minutes, and some kid was already like, man, if you need help, like if you got connections. I'm like, oh fuck, dude, Jesus. You can't escape it, man. You can't.
You can't. I stopped telling people what I do, and when it comes to like ride sharing, Lyft or Uber or whatever, it just
you just make something up now. You're like,
well, I just am in marketing.
Oh, okay, great.
That usually just sort of like, okay,
yeah,
that's interesting.
I don't want to be too, I don't know. It just seems kind of, now they know where I live. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. Like,
right. That's a good point.
I'm so paranoid. I'm like, okay, so now they know, there's cameras and DJs and record equipment in there. Like, dude, I don't want, it's just too weird.
Oh, sure.
So I met Mike, this is for the audience, because we're doing a project together with the Pharcyde. So I'm curious, how did you hook up with those fellas?
Oh, so I did. We were both on a sort of tour / festival. It's a festival that in Australia that we did like 5 cities. So it was kind of a tour, but it was a huge, felt like a Coachella sized festival in every city. We met there, and I was still living in the Bay. So it was just like, okay, cool. I met these guys. Like, I grew up on your music. Like, that's amazing. Just to like, oh, cool. I met them. Sweet.
Yeah.
There's that. And then I moved to LA, and then I guess, well, all their DJs I'm friends with. So, up until then, I think they were, I don't know why they needed a DJ at that point, but they needed a DJ in like 2014, I want to say. And so they called me because they were like, oh yeah, we just like what you do with the visuals and everything too. So yeah, it just totally worked.
They needed a DJ for a tour they were going on?
Yeah, they were doing, I think the first thing we did was we went to, it was a European tour.
Okay.
Yeah. So, we didn't practice too much. So I was pretty nervous before. But it's not like it was my first gig ever, so it was
Right.
fine. Yeah. And it's like, oh, what's the job? Oh, play all these songs you grew up on. Sure.
That's
Right.
awesome.
Funnest gig ever. Like, what, you know what I mean? Like, I've got the best seat in the house. So that's been cool. And for them, it's been like 5-6 years now.
That's great. That's amazing.
Yeah. But the cool thing with that is, like, we're not constantly out, so it feels fresh every time we do shows. You know what I mean? Like, we'll do a run. If you go to like Europe or Asia, you don't want to go for just one show. So you do like a week or two. Then you come back and you do a couple shows here and there. But yeah, it's always a fresh experience.
That's awesome.
And the fans are great too. You know what I mean?
I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's who are the remaining members right now?
So it's Booty Brown and Imani.
Yes. Okay. And do they still have there was a Delicious Vinyl storefront right off Sunset, close to Amoeba, right? Is that? Am I thinking wrong, man? Or was that like?
I don't know.
Is it Delicious Vinyl Pizza? Is that what I'm thinking about?
I think it might be pizza. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Because Brown's is that just Brown's store 242? Yeah,
that's
Brown's
an Echo
got a
Park.
cool little clothing boutique.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Maybe
and that's where they do. They do the other show, the in studio Pharcyde TV shows.
Nice. Okay.
Oh, that's where they do that. Okay. That's cool. Now you both, another thing I wanted you guys to talk about was you both are friendly with Jim, your friend DJ Z-Trip, is that his name?
Yeah. Yep. Zach.
Mike, you know him?
Oh, I've known Zach for a long time. Yeah, I mean, I actually saw a video recently from like '97 that we were all there. I was like, damn, it's been that long. Jeez.
What video was that?
Oh, it was a local show. I feel like it looked like Palace of Fine Arts, but I'm not really sure. It was like one of these grainy VHS, things. And it wasn't even footage of the actual show. It was footage of everybody setting up and just kind of like running around on stage.
Nice. Okay. Behind the scenes.
Yeah, but I was like, oh damn. Yeah, there's Zach. Everyone was there.
Yeah, I thought for sure you guys would have met. Like, it seems like you were crossed.
Yeah, Zach's cool, man. Like I remember there was a few moments, like I'm not like best friends with him, but there's been a couple pretty key moments in my life that he was just kind of there for me for some reason.
Yeah.
One was at Coachella. I played Coachella for the first time. The guy before me cleared the room.
Oh gosh.
So this is have you guys been to Coachella or
No.
you guys seen? So like this is the Sahara tent. It's like, it's not the main stage, but it's like, it's kind of one of the stages that you want to be on. And I'm, building it up, cause it's a great opportunity, great audience. This is the dream right here, playing Coachella. Audience clears out. So I'm playing at the same time as the Red Hot Chili Peppers, which is already tough enough. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, who's not going to want to see them? So like, you know what I mean? Like, so for me, I go back to, being like, oh man, I'm just some kid from Daly City. Like I ain't shit. What is this? You know what I mean? Like it just completely deflated. So like, it's like 5 minutes before I'm supposed to start and I'm just standing there, rooms, the tent is empty and he comes up from behind and he's just like, well, I'm ready to see a show. And I'm like, who is this? And I'm like, oh my God, Zach. I was like, oh my God, just gave him a hug. Like, fuck, man. He's like, hey. And Zach had been playing Coachella from probably since the beginning. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so.
So he goes, "Hey, dude, trust me. Just do your thing. The room will fill. This tent will be full." And so I did my thing. 10 minutes in, full tent. Like
Nice.
they just all came, and I was like, oh. I get emotional even thinking about it. I'm like, damn, I don't even know if he knows like how much that meant, or if he even remembers doing that. But like, that shit was like a movie. It was just like, you just need that person to just like kind of let you know it's going to be okay. Just do your thing. Just focus on the moment.
He knows what he's talking about. Zach has been there and done that, man, with basically every career thing you can do, musical thing you can do. And I moved to Arizona in 97 and met him and the Bomb Shelter DJs, his crew. It was him,
Radar and Emil.
Radar. And they had the #1 weekly event there, Mission Control, at this incredible shithole of a dive bar called Nita's Hideaway. And
what was it called, Jim? The bar?
Nita's Hideaway.
Okay.
In Tempe, right by ASU. And those guys, long story short, those guys found out I was a comic book artist. They saw what I was doing, and we instantly became friends, and they invited me to come down and start painting on stage behind them every Thursday. So I didn't know anyone in Arizona. I had just moved there, and suddenly I'm painting at the #1 weekly event, and it was like the easiest, best way for me to meet new people, make friends. And Zach and those guys, man, just immediately accepted me into their crew, and we all became really good friends. And Zach moved to LA in like 2001, and he was one of the people that kind of convinced me to move out there the following year, because 6 years in Arizona was sort of enough for me. But so I just talked to Zach a couple weeks ago. Like we've been friends since then. So and his big major label debut, Mike, the Shifting Gears record he did in Hollywood.
Yep, Hollywood.
Like when you open the record, I did the double page spread illustration inside of it.
No shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I've seen your work then. Yeah.
So, I've done art for him, merch design for him.
Wow.
Live art in LA whenever we could swing it together. So yeah, man, he's just, he's one of the brothers, one of the homies.
That's cool. He's a good dude, man.
Yeah.
Real good dude.
Yeah. Always has supported my work, and, it sucks even if we don't see each other as much, but when we do see each other, it's like no time has passed kind of thing. Man, dude, I've been to events of his and was like painting behind him where it's like the best turntablism that's ever existed. You know what I'm saying? The best crowd rocking, the best in the moment shit where I'd be like mid brushstroke and I would have to stop and just turn around and see what I was doing. Because it was like, dude, no. And I was kind of there in 97 was the year he started inventing the mashup. I guess you could say that. Before that term turned into sort of a bad, cheesy word.
Yeah, that was tough. That was tough.
But he was definitely the first DJ that I ever experienced. Like, this dude's mixing like Tool with a breakbeat from a Soulsonic Force record or something. Like, I've never heard or experienced anything like this before.
Yeah.
It was revolutionary at the time. It was like a movement was happening.
It still is. Those mixes he was doing still are revolutionary today.
Yeah.
Like, there's just something about them. Like his Kansas one, or like the Mercedes Benz. Like,
yeah,
he's the dude that like, when he would do shows in the Bay, obviously we all go, all the DJs, and we're just standing there like, fuck, like, because it's so rare. Because you have other DJs who are just like, oh man, he's just really good at scratching. Like, that is fucking incredible. but for him to be able to do what he does, but then also the entire crowd is like with him, it's like, oh man, yeah, he figured it out. Like that.
Yeah, I've never seen anyone with more mastery over a crowd or the ability to manipulate the crowd the way he wants the direction to go in. You know, it's I don't know, man. I think he's probably one of the best live crowd rockers of all time, obviously.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
You know, and at the time it was like Shadow and Cut Chemist were around a lot and visiting Arizona a lot. And those guys I associate more with like being the record digger, like funk experts. Yeah. Like their knowledge of music and their vinyl collections are unparalleled. But Zach, to me, was the guy who could just show up with like 3 or 4 crates of records and just keep the crowd at the level 10 for like 2 hours straight or however long he needed to DJ.
Yeah.
You know, it was unbelievable, man. Just so dope. So dope.
Always. I would say him and Mixmaster Mike are probably the 2 guys who you don't want to follow. You just do not.
Right.
Under any circumstances. Like they have to close the night, period. I'm for sure not following that. No way. Yeah. Because they're the kind of like you know, when you enjoy what they do so much, like the last thing I want to do is get on and ruin it for myself. You know, like I want to hear what he's doing.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a DJ, but I don't know how you would follow one of his
you can't.
Over the top bombastic sets. It's
yeah.
That's the end of the night, man. When Z Trip calls it and it's the end, that's sort of the end of the night.
That's it.
You know?
Yeah.
It's cool too, man, because I get to experience it before everyone got Serato. So especially in the 97, 98 Nita's Hideaway era, I would meet Zach at the club early and we would unload these canvases of mine for the stage. And then I would help him unload all of his crates of records.
Damn.
And it's just a funny idea to think that there would be, between the 3 DJs and me on stage, there would be like 30 crates of records. So you couldn't even move. Like I had a little area that I could stand in to paint. And if I would get drunk, there'd be times in the night where I would be like turning around and just tripping over crates of records.
I can see that. Yeah, I've been there.
And then at the end of the night, Zach would get me and whoever else was hanging out, and we would just drunkenly have to load his truck with all these records. You know, it was something that I don't know if people will ever have to deal with again. You know.
No. But also that reminds me, like I've done gigs like that where it's just like wall to wall records, just stacks of crates and stuff. Like I think that's one thing that we'll never get back is like you see the progression of the party with all the records that have been pulled, like, you know, the sleeves are out and you can't have that anymore because everything's in the computer. But it's like I always like to see that, like, oh man, yeah, they went through like the 7th crate, like they're breaking into the gems now, or, you know, like you just kind of see visually where the night's gone.
Does no one perform like that anymore?
It's a specialty thing.
Like does someone like Pete Rock do that?
I don't think Pete Rock is doing all vinyl. I mean, if he does, it's probably a special night, but like,
right. I mean, it's probably
even like premieres on Serato. But
okay,
you know, like if you watch Premiere, you know, he does this thing with full clip where he'll start with the original sample and he's playing it. It's like, okay, cool. And then he takes, you know, he has it chopped up where he can like fire them off with like cue points. Mm-hmm. And so he all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, no, he's playing it like he did on the sampler when he made full clip, and then he puts the song in. It's crazy how he does. It's just like, that's a genius way.
I was just on the treadmill today with that jamming.
Nice.
So good. That's cool. All right, fellas, I think we've done the deed.
Dude, this is amazing for you to just watch. Like,
thanks.
Damn.
This was great, man. I'm glad we all got to hang out.
Yeah, me too. I knew you guys would really connect well.
I'm really surprised we haven't met already.
Yeah.
I know, man. I back in the day at all these events and stuff, I used to party so hard that I would almost assume that we did met, and I'm just not remembering it. I don't know. They're from the Arizona era. There's people that have come up to me at like Comic-Cons and stuff in recent years and have said things like, I was at your and Z-Trip's event and we talked afterwards. I'm like, dude, I was a crazy party animal back then. Like, I don't remember any of that shit that happened. I mean, I have some photo evidence, but
yeah,
it was a different time, man. It was a different time.
Totally. And also, like, for me, I don't know if this happens for you guys, but like if I meet somebody in one kind of aspect of my life, like music or whatever, and then they come into my life through like television or film or something, I'm like, oh wait, no, we did meet. But like, if the context isn't the same, it doesn't register to me right away.
Oh, sure.
You know? So I guess there's part of that too, just in terms of like remembering people. But I don't think that's the case here because you've been an artist for, I don't know. I'm sure we have met. It's just parties are crazy. Like,
Yeah. But Shawn and I can relate to what you're saying because, like, when we meet people at Comic-Cons, it's almost like you're meeting them, but not really because your senses are already so strange in that environment that it probably takes someone to meet someone like multiple times for them to stick in your mind in a situation like that.
Yeah, unless you go out for dinner together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cements it.
Yeah. Otherwise, especially I would imagine with you guys, like it's just a line of people, cycling in and out. Like you're only like half meeting them. You're not really, you're just being introduced. You're not like getting to know anybody.
Yeah.
That's true. All right, fellas. Well, I think we should definitely do this again because this was such an easy, fun, natural conversation to have.
Yeah.
I think.
Hey, Shawn, when you stop recording, can we just stay on for a quick second?
Of course. Yeah. I love doing that. All right. Okay. So I'm going to hit stop. Thank you guys for doing this, and we'll do it again.
Right on.
This is the Inkpulp Podcast. This is the Inkpulp Podcast. Comics, hip hop, life.